welcome to our webinar on the topic Application Security Causing Problems. We know a guy. Thank you all for joining us on this lovely day. And I am Patrick Lehnes, Marketing Manager at Outpost 24. And as you might expect, before we dive into today's webinar, I need to tackle some administrative topics first. The webinar will be recorded and the slides will be sent to you afterwards, so no need for you to get out your pen and paper or have your finger hovering over the screenshot button. If you have any questions, feel free to ask them in the chat. We will collect them and answer them during our Q&A slot at the end. And last but not least, we will run 2 polls during the webinar. These will be displayed for about 30 seconds. In order to help our speakers determine if their experience and their insights overlap with your day-to-day reality. And with that said, now let me introduce our experts. We have Laura Enríquez, Product Manager at Outpost 24, Omri Kletter, Chief Product Officer at Outpost 24, Sergio Loureiro, Outpost 24's Vice President of Product Strategy, and Kristof van Wilder, Security Program Manager at Outpost 24. And for today's agenda, we will first tackle the problems with application security, then expand this to your organization's overall exposure and discuss how approaches to these challenges can be combined for a comprehensive application security strategy. And following this, we highlight how this approach can be implemented. And then we have some time reserved for Q&A. And with all of that out of the way, Omri, the stage is yours.
Thank you, Perry, and thank you for the audience for attending it. I know that many are attending it now live, and thank you all for that. And obviously, many more will join us remotely or offline. So happy listening to and watching to whoever is joining us. I'm here just to kick off the discussion, and to a certain degree, I would like to see it in a disruptive moment where we are very excited to share with the industry, with the cybersecurity community, our new offering around application security that takes it really to the next level in combining few things together. My mentor, I'm sure that the mentor of many of you, Steve Jobs, had a unforgettable moment when launching the first iPhone. He was going on stage and he presented, actually, we're launching 3 different products today, a phone, a music player, and also a communication, like an internet available solution. And then he said 3 solutions, and then they're coming together and say, well, actually, we're launching 1 product, and that was the iPhone. An unforgettable moment there where the graphics coming together. And obviously, we're a great example to be inspired from, but I think to a certain degree, that's what we're trying to do today. We're launching 4 things that are actually coming together as Cyberflex, a very innovative approach to deal with application security that brings obviously both the external attack surface management with strong penetration test capabilities, with the ability to have the white glove services here, and to do it and to allow it in a flexible manner. So I always said that we're aiming to solve not just the problems of the CISO, but also for the CFO. And to the many people here in the audience that don't only care about how they pick the right application security program, but how to ensure that you get your organization on board, and the CFO and the different team members. I think this is, listen carefully, because I think here we have something quite unique that tick more just the box of doing program, where they're ensuring it's being consumable. It's a consumable cybersecurity. So that's in the coming chapters. So I'm excited to share the stage with my colleagues that will walk you through that. But some of you are not familiar with Outpost 24, and sometimes I feel this is one of the best kept secret in the market. We're very proud of being part of Outpost 24, a global cybersecurity leader made in Sweden. We're very proud of our heritage. I'm calling you today from our labs in Karlskrona. We have strong heritage of almost 25 years in the business, and we are definitely here to stay. I won't go number by number, but if there is one message very clear here, that we are absolutely committed to our customers. To a certain degree, if I look on someone to thank for incubating Cyberflex, is actually our customers. Bringing together working with us to identify the different things that really like in Outpost 24 and combining it in one offering. And we are committed to our customers, and to whoever of you are already customers of us and want to understand more about the journey towards Cyberflex, we're more than happy to extend it to many of you who are still not part of the Outpost 24 family. We are obviously welcome you around, but with north of 3,500 of customers and almost 9 million of active users that we're protecting either in our access risk business or through our attack surface management. And we have good grasp of what's going on, and we'll continue. There is one thing that I encourage you that we'll continue to work very closely to our customers. So that's for me. I'm looking forward to, this is just the beginning of the discussion, obviously. And so I'm looking forward to connect with you, and who want to connect with us over LinkedIn and continue the discussion. We're more happy to do it. And again, iPhone moment for us, creating an offering that combines few solutions together and hopefully disrupting the way application security is being done. Next to you, Ara.
Okay, so hi everyone. To start with today, I would like to focus on a fundamental truth in cybersecurity, and that is that applications are still a major problem. So despite all of the advancements in security, attackers continue to successfully target web applications because they're exposed, because they're complex, and often they're not as well protected as they should be. So today we're going to dig into why this is still a difficult challenge and how we can take a smarter, more continuous approach to securing our web applications. So actually, this quote from Verizon really puts things into perspective. Web applications are not just an important attack vector, they're the most prevalent. And exploitation isn't just increasing, it jumped 180% in the past year alone. This is a massive surge, and it really tells us that attackers are accelerating. They're getting better at finding and exploiting vulnerabilities, sometimes even faster than many organizations can detect or respond to them. It's definitely a wake-up call that tells us that our strategies for application security, they need to evolve, and they need to evolve quickly. So it is clear that applications are a growing target, but let's go a bit deeper and talk about why application security is such a persistent challenge still. So there are three core reasons why application security is still such a persistent challenge. So the first one is that applications are a primary target. They hold sensitive data, they power digital businesses, and they're exposed to the internet, which makes them, really attractive and accessible for attackers. Secondly, applications, they're mission critical. They're not optional anymore. They're how customers will interact with the businesses. It's how employees get work done. It's how partners connect. So a downtime or a breach for these businesses doesn't just hurt them, it can be catastrophic. And third, there's a lack of visibility and testing. Too many organizations still don't have a complete, accurate inventory of what they own. They don't know what they have, where it is, or how vulnerable it might be. And when you don't have visibility, you can't really protect it. So again, we have some data here that backs all of this up. So for example, 34% increase in exploited vulnerabilities, half of the CISOs acknowledging that they lack full visibility, and even over 2/3 saying that their most sensitive data is sitting here in this very, web applications. Actually, when you dig deeper into the day-to-day realities of, what the security teams are facing, it has become very clear that it's not just that application security is hard, it's that the entire attack surface is constantly evolving and expanding. So let's go ahead and take a closer look at some of the factors making, application security even more challenging. So beyond just the high-level challenges that we just covered, the reality is that application attack surface itself, it's becoming harder to define, to manage, and to protect. It's not just that there are more web applications, it's that they're changing faster, they are popping up in places you wouldn't expect, and they're slipping past those traditional security controls that we usually rely on. So let's have a look at some of the specific factors driving this complexity now. So first, we're dealing with both known and unknown web applications. So shadow IT, forgotten assets, and things that never really made it onto official inventories. Second, we see unpatched vulnerabilities and outdated applications lingering out, not because the teams don't care about them, but because keeping everything up to date takes a lot of time and resources, and they just don't always have it. And of course, speaking of resources, there's a shortage of internal resources and also in expertise. Most security teams today are stretched thin, and it's really unrealistic to expect them to manually monitor every application across a growing surface. We're also facing a lack of visibility into how attackers could move through exploitable paths. Nowadays, it's not just about single vulnerabilities anymore. It's about how they can chain those weaknesses together. And then, of course, there are those business critical applications that come in through mergers and acquisitions. And unfortunately, often they're integrated from a business perspective long before security teams have full visibility over them. And finally, of course, the rapid pace of software development, especially if you tie this together with limited budgets, more often than not, it creates an environment where speed will win over security until something goes wrong. All of these challenges that we just talked about, they need a new approach, one that's continuous, that's prioritized, and that's scalable as well. So given everything that we just covered, again, the lack of visibility, the rapid pace of change, and the resource constraints, it's clear that organizations need a better way to discover and manage their true exposure. So to talk about how we can tackle this challenge, I'll hand it over to Sergio, but before, I think that we have a poll, Patrick.
Yes, as announced in the beginning, now you should have the options to answer 5 poll questions. And our questions would be, what challenges is your organization currently facing in terms of web application security? The first one, as Laura mentioned, limited budget and or manpower, then information overload and or a range of false positives, compliance issues, lack of visibility over owned web applications, and then last but not least, the integration into existing development processes. And yeah, feel free to pick one that is currently the most pressing for your organization, and then we will move on to the next. All right, so one of the winners of the poll, if we can call them winner, is that one of the key challenges is definitely information overload and or false positives, as well as a lacking visibility over owned web applications, followed by limited budget and or manpower. And thank you all for answering. I will end the poll and on to the next.
All right, I'm Sergio. So as Laura has said, as highlighted the challenges with the application security, but do security teams know of all their organization applications that are out there, right? And that's the role of external attack surface management. So with the external attack surface management, we scan internet-wide for discovery and trying to highlight the blind spots, as the poll has said, giving visibility to the security teams and especially on the application side of things. The attack surface is always growing, and this because of digital transformation initiatives, cloud adoption, and new services being launched. And on the other end, we have the attackers that are targeting unknown and unmanaged assets in a continuous way. We often see that the successful attacks all started with some unknown or completely out of the radar of the security team asset, so they don't get patched, updated, and tested. So that's why it is unknown assets are very risky, and it's very important to keep an eye on them. Usually when we do EASM initiatives with our customers, it's often the case that we find assets that nobody knows about, that nobody knows who owns it, or what is the business unit that should be monitoring it. So that's an important point to start. And on the other end, attackers are always looking for low-hanging fruit, and with the help with AI, they can go from publication of vulnerabilities into active exploitation of vulnerabilities very fast. And so it's important for security teams to know and continuously update their attack surface to know what is out there. Just to give you an example, for instance, in March, we had this new critical vulnerability on Next.js, a very critical one. It was an authorization bypass. And within hours, our teams were able to add the detection on our detection engine. And so our customers start to see the first results and understand their exposure to this very important vulnerability, and then starting planning and putting in place mitigation plans in order to mitigate the risk with this new vulnerability. And now over to you, Patrick.
Thank you. Now that the first poll has ended, I'm going to start the second one. That is more on the question of what is the IT process landscape like in your organization in practice? Since we in the past have discovered that the processes are in place most of the times, but whether they are being followed or whether they are being adhered to is a completely different question. So feel free to answer whether everything is 100% perfect in your organization, whether there is room for improvement on that side, whether there is still a lot of work to be done, whether there is no existing process landscape, or if you don't want to answer, feel free to simply check that box as well. And I see the first answers already coming in, but I'm going to keep the poll open for a few more seconds to give everyone a chance. And So far, everything is 100% perfect, and there is room for improvement are in the top two, with room for improvement being a bit more. So everyone who says that everything is 100% perfect, we would like to invite you to the next webinar, because I'm sure you have lots of things to share, both for our experts as well as for your colleagues. And I'm going to end the poll as well and hand over to Kristof.
Oh, it's still me.
Oh,
Sergio here.
I'm sorry. Hand over to Sergio.
So, as Laura has highlighted the importance and the challenges with application security, on the other hand, I've touched upon the need for attack surface management, but as Omri was saying in the very beginning, we don't need two separate programs, right? We need a coordinated and comprehensive AppSec strategy with a coordinated approach. So that means continuously monitoring the security unknowns, looking for unknown assets, unmanaged assets that are forgotten and then can be blind spots, and then not getting attention, not getting updated, not getting the security patches, and so that are pretty vulnerable and very handy for attackers to get in. And on the other hand, CISOs cannot or don't have the budget to test every application at the deepest level, right? So, of course, with business critical applications, we should, or security teams, allocate a pen test budget in the deepest form for testing. But what about all the other applications? So with EASM, we give metrics so that the security teams can prioritize and applications and allocate the budget, the pen test budget, according to the importance of the applications. And ideally, with a flexible consumption-based agreement, so that the security teams can adapt to changes on the attack surface, changes on the attacks and new vulnerabilities coming in. And with that, I hand over to Laura.
So, as Sergio just highlighted, focusing penetration testing in the right areas is critical, but getting there is not always straightforward. So it always starts with understanding your attack surface. Without knowing what you actually have exposed, it's very difficult to know where the testing will deliver the most value to your organization. So once your organization has a clear view of what their attack surface looks like, the next challenge is deciding where to focus their penetration testing efforts. Security teams, they need a way to be able to prioritize testing based on actual exposure and business risks, not just a guessing game. As Sergio just mentioned, they also need flexibility. This is important. They need the ability to adjust testing as their attack surface changes and grows, instead of being stuck with rigid scopes that can quickly become outdated once the attack surface changes. Another need is the visibility, not just to find vulnerabilities, but to fully understand how those vulnerabilities fit into their attack surface. And finally, once those vulnerabilities are found, the teams often need direct access to experts to validate those findings. These are the real needs that are shaping modern penetration testing approaches right now. And they're why aligning testing with attack surface analysis has become so important for a comprehensive AppSec strategy. So now that we've looked at how attack surface analysis can help you make smarter decisions when it comes to testing, the next question would be, how do we actually structure that testing in a way that aligns with business priorities and the resources that we have available? So let's talk about it. So another truth about application security is that not every application has the same level of business risk, and security programs, they need to reflect that reality. The best practice here is to align the depth and the frequency of testing with the criticality of the application. So there might be lower risk applications that only need periodic assessments, while high value or customer facing applications, they will often require continuous and deeper testing. So a tier approach will always help organizations use their security resources more effectively. In the end, it's all about being smart with your resources. You need to make sure that you're getting the right coverage without overspending, while keeping your most important assets protected. So I'll now pass it over to Kristof, who's going to introduce this new approach that we have developed to help organizations put all of this strategy into action more effectively.
Hi everyone, Kristof here. So as Laura said, I'm going to talk a little bit more how
what the Cyberflex solution is all about. In the end, Cyberflex, we see it actually as the best of the two worlds that has been mentioned or shown by Laura and Sergio. We use the attack surface management to continually discover the unknowns, knowns, knowing the scope, doing penetration testing on them. But the key element is that we also use the recommendations, and the recommendations, they can be pen testing as a service, but they can also look at what is out there to decommission. And that actually all based on a flexible consumption-based agreement. That's in the end what Cyberflex high level is all about. How we actually do this, I'm going to talk to you in the next slide. In the end, we have few phases and some use cases that we can talk about. Discovery, it's all about scopes, domains that we try to configure in a continuous way. Also the unknowns that we try to discover. Based on when we captured all that information, we try to start with what is there to prioritize, what is there that should be decommissioned, and what applications we should discuss with the customers, knowing to understand the criticality of those, so that we can at least align on the next steps. What is it there to perform the next assessment? Which pen testing as a service engagements we need to agree upon. In the end, then we go for an assessment phase or an onboarding first in an assessment, and then later on in a reporting. In the end, what we try to achieve is first to capture constantly the knowns and the unknowns. We try to really discover that constantly and get that visibility to our customers. Knowing also that we have these detections and highlighting that to the customers, we can lower the chance of certain data breaches, because we try to assess and provide insights to the pen testing as a service assessments. For example, I mentioned exposures that we want to minimize. We saw that unknown domains are out there. We immediately, via integrations, we can set that up. We try to reduce that exposure so that it's not there out there, so that we don't know actually what is exposed to those scopes. What is also critical in the end is we want to understand the organization. What is out there? What is critical apps? What are critical business processes? So we can align that with what we all discover and start prioritizing this. And this all, of course, in a continuous modus. I'm going to talk a little bit also, how does that look in terms of an implementation? First of all, we start with scoping, which is our account managers linked with sales engineers talking what is the pricing, what is the scope all about, talking how many domains do we need, how many web applications we have out there. From the moment we have a good understanding, we do the implementation phase. And that implementation phase is about configuring the engine, configuring the tool, looking, of course, at the outcome of the engine, looking at what is all connected and out there as a digital footprint, and analyzing what is there to test. So we're trying to recommend and get also, as soon as possible, insights by having conversations with the required teams to understand criticality, so we can also set, as Laura mentioned, the correct assessments. And then we do this, we implement this, of course, in a continuous base, based with we can send out integrations where we send out this information, or moving further then in terms of reporting. And I said this is also based to look at the budgets. There is a dedicated customer success manager assigned to the account, looking over at the planning for your engagement, looking at your budget. So we handle that in monthly/quarterly business review meetings. Is the value there? Do we need to speed up? What are areas to improve? so we get best out of this solution. And of course, in terms of reporting, we have the findings in our pen testing as a service portal to look at the findings and to prioritize these with existing workflows of our pen testers. So the development team can look at how we find this, and also, of course, that we provide no false positives in that portal. Back to you, Patrick.
Thank you all very much. So now, as promised, we have reserved some time for some Q&A. So if you have any questions, feel free to pop them in the chat, ask them. No question will be left unanswered. And if we don't get around to them during the webinar duration, we will definitely reach out to you and try to answer the question then via email. And yeah, one of the questions that came into the chat, and yeah, for the speakers, feel free, whoever speaks first gets to answer the question, and if someone else has any additions, feel free to add them as well. One question was, I already use continuous pen testing. How will this be different or keep my costs down?
I can answer that one, Patrick, if you want me to.
Sure.
So if you are already doing continuous testing, that's a really good start. But what we're trying to do here is that we're trying to make sure that the testing is actually aligned with what matters most for your organization. So instead of testing everything the same way, we can help you focus the efforts and the budget on the areas that are really high risk. That's where you can actually start seeing efficiency and not just coverage.
All right. On the pen testing topic, we got another question, and that is it possible to test internally exposed web applications?
Yes, we can do pen test on internal web applications.
Would that be with the same offering, with the same platform, or would that be a different one?
So do you mean under the Cyberflex package?
Yes.
Yeah, we can always help customers prioritize their web applications, whether they're internal or external.
Perfect. All right. Thank you very much. Another question was, one second. How does the solution categorize risks?
So I can take that one. So EASM gives a score for each vulnerability, and this can be further aligned with customers, for instance, classifying, giving more context into each asset, adding tags that give a clear picture of the attack surface, and then with the metrics that come from the risks, the exposures, the misconfigurations, or mixing both of them, we can establish what is the action plan that should be put in place.
Okay. I hope that answers the question. If not, feel free to clarify or send a follow-up answer in the chat. On the ASM topic, we had another question, and that is, we are using EASM already. Why is this different?
So on the discovery of assets is always very technical, and there are many techniques, and at the end it's more of a trade-off between finding a lot of stuff and having low false positives, of course. But what differentiates really today the EASM solutions on one end are the access to threat intel and DRP as well, digital risk protection. So knowing what is going on the dark web, what credentials have been compromised and that sort of thing, that helps really to or completes the attack surface. And on the other end, specifically on this webinar, the Cyberflex package being able not only to find applications, but to put an action plan, meaning further testing, deeper testing with pen testing of all the applications that we find. So we don't leave our customers with only lists of applications and lists of vulnerabilities, but we give them solutions for handling the risks and exposures.
Okay, thank you. And yeah, we have lots of questions. There's another question that just came in. Does Cyberflex have the capability to perform dynamic code and static analysis on applications developed internally? If so, does the solution also provide clear remediation guidance or code correction recommendations? Maybe we can ask, split that question up into first. Does Cyberflex have the capability to perform dynamic code and static analysis on applications developed internally?
We do not have a SaaS solution, no.
Okay. And does that also count?
I think just we want to double click and ensure that we get it right. So I don't know who sent this. So obviously, Patrick. So it's definitely warranted discussion. We did work bespokely with few of our partners to help them to review internal code. So it's definitely something that we can do. At the moment, we are, Cyberflex is a new offering when we are gradually adding more capabilities into that. And we'll definitely consider it to expedite it. But at the moment, to Laura's point, we're very focused on the external exposure and ability from a productized perspective to look at things from how things are being exposed. This is obviously higher risk to a certain degree, and hence we prioritize it based on the customer feedback.
Okay. On the second part of the question, does our solution provide clear remediation guidance or code correction recommendations? Maybe we can answer that a bit more broadly also for the web application part and not only the internal code. Yeah,
so the results from the pen test that are delivered through the platform, they do offer a solution section, and you also have the ability to speak directly with the pen testers through the platform to ask further questions for guidance or remediation if needed.
All right. Another question on the penetration testing. Does this application perform penetration tests for web portals and apps? Whoever wants to answer that.
Can you repeat the question? Sorry.
Does this application, so I would say Cyberflex, perform penetration tests for web portals and apps?
Yes. Any web application.
All right.
And apps, yeah.
Then another question we had, what happens when an app is enrolled into Cyberflex, and how can I see the results?
Maybe Kristof can handle this one.
Should I repeat?
Yes, please, Patrick.
What happens when an app is enrolled into Cyberflex, and how can I see the results?
So when we enroll an app, the findings are in the application portal or in our portal, applicant portal, I would say. This is where you are able to find the application outcome of the testing, where you can also speak with the tester or ask for feedback or ask questions or verify if a finding. Let's say you fixed something, it's been pushed, you can ask for a verification also to test a specific vulnerability again.
I think, by the way, I think just to comment, because I think it's a very good question. In the end of the day, there are many penetration testing capabilities out there. Many of them will send you a report in a PDF or whatever. We, based on our work with customers, we want to make sure that we are, happy to support you with the highest compliance requirements. And the highest compliance requirements mean that you want to have a proper portal with the full audit trail, with the relevant accesses, the ability to have communication back and forth, that everything is documented, not on emails, rather on a live portal that provide access, and with the ability to have the relevant dashboard and so on and so forth. So I think, if you like, part of the reason why us, or part of the things that we really believe make a difference, is the ability to communicate and to have a proper, what we call the portal, a proper the user interface accessible to your users, when you can really see the results, play with the results, provide feedback to the results, and so on and so forth. As part of Cyberflex and our intent to provide a white glove experience to our customers, not only that you have access to the portal, our managed service team, and obviously Kristof is one of the leaders of this team, will ensure that you're empowered to use it and educated to use it, and will do some of the work for you. It's really a white glove experience, as we like to call it.
Thank you very much. And I think with that was the last question. So yeah, if there are any more questions, feel free to reach us on Outpost 24. We have the contact form. We have additional information there as well. Visit us on social media, LinkedIn, Facebook. No, not Facebook, but YouTube, etc. And yeah, in the presentation or in the webinar, we have uploaded the link to the Cyberflex datasheet, as well as a jump link directly to the Cyberflex offering. Oh, no, one more question came in. How much flexibility we have to integrate into enterprise-grade environment, APIs, limit on APIs, single sign-on, MFA, etc.?
Absolutely. And obviously, that's every enterprise. And, I've mentioned before, we have 3,500 customers. So you can imagine that everyone has its own architecture and own preference. That's why this is not just, ordering form online and you order Cyberflex. The best next action would be obviously to set up a meeting with our solution consulting team, and to make sure that we are addressing the specific requirements of your environment, which will be obviously enterprise grade. If there are some things that are currently limited from a productized perspective and may be provided as a bespoke element, that's definitely something that we'll be happy to explore. But yeah, this would be, the next best step in this case would be to have a follow-up with our solution consulting team, and to really discuss the specific architecture and needs of this customer.
All right. And with that, I thank you all for attending. I thank all the speakers for their expertise, and I wish you all a very nice rest of the day.